we have to talk about the new M. Night Shyamalan movie,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Trap.
because you saw that movie too, right?
I did. And I saw
Okay,
you
I
went
saw
on
that too.
quite
Yeah,
a,
I went and saw it. Yeah, I went on a Shyamalan binge because like
mhm,
before I saw Trap, I realized I like the only other Shyamalan movie I've ever seen was Old,
that's
which is a fun
crazy.
movie. When I was like getting into watching movies more as a teenager, it
Yeah,
seemed like M. Night Shyamalan had this terrible reputation as a
right.
hack.
Because Avatar: The Last Airbender came out when we were what,
Right.
like 2012.
And no
So
one liked that movie. And I didn't
everyone
watch that
hated it.
movie. And
It's
I don't
bad.
even, I'm
Well,
not
actually, I don't
necessarily,
know.
it's
I,
probably bad.
it probably
Like
is. It's been
Shyamalan
a
has
while
made
since
some,
I've seen it.
he's made some bad movies. I've never seen that movie.
I don't
And
remember liking it.
And I don't even care about Avatar. So I probably will avoid that one for as long as possible. But I watched Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, and Split. Never seen any of those movies, but they're all really good. I think Sixth Sense is a great movie. I think Unbreakable is a good movie. I think Unbreakable is my favorite of those old Shyamalan movies. Great
I haven't seen
film.
Unbreakable.
Really?
Mm-mm. I've seen Signs. I've seen Sixth Sense. I've seen Old.
Signs is fun.
I'm not a huge Signs
Um,
fan.
I don't mind it. One of the things about Shyamalan across all of his movies that I've seen. Unfortunately, his movies tend to drag. That's kind of
Yeah.
like my problem with his movies is that they're too long, or at least they feel too long. And I think he's clearly like an egotistical guy. I don't know. Have you ever seen like the Time magazine cover of him?
Uh-uh.
It's like a Time magazine cover at the peak of its power, and it says the next Spielberg question mark. So it's like that kind of thing sets you up for failure, so that when you do have a bad movie or have a movie that flops, people can point at you and be like, "You thought you were the next Spielberg? Well, no, you failed, idiot." That's probably not fair.
M. Night Shyamalan was 21 years old when he wrote Sixth Sense. So imagine being that famous, that young, as a director, as a
Yeah,
filmmaker.
that's true. At that point in time, too, it's pretty unheard of. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it kind of slips. He made that After Earth movie with like Will Smith and Jaden Smith,
It
which looks really bad.
looks
I think that movie
terrible.
looks really bad. But he made Split. I remember that movie came out. Everyone was like, he's back. And it was good. But then, yeah, Trap is out, and Trap is good. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it is probably the funniest movie I've seen this year.
M. Night Shyamalan, I'm convinced, and I've said this before when I watched Old and all of his work, that this man is some alien who has traveled to Earth,
Yeah,
studied humans.
he just has a particular
He's,
style.
he's so particular. It's so weird. It's strange. And I love it. It's just so him.
Yeah.
It's such a specific voice.
Yeah. My partner said that his movies operate on comic book or video game logic. And that's kind of like a good way, I think, of looking at it. People always criticize his movies for not making sense, but I think you just kind of have to like let go a little bit.
I had an absolute blast
It's really
with
funny.
Trap. It is
Yeah.
so funny. It is so entertaining. I think he writes a serial killer really well,
Yeah,
which is
I think he does
fun.
too. Yeah.
How well he can capture a psychopath. That's one of the most interesting parts about Trap is the central performance there and just this
Yeah.
ability to be these two people simultaneously, to be
Yeah, I like
the
that.
the weird, awkward dad, which it's clear that M. Night Shyamalan himself, because the musician is M. Night
Right. Is
Shyamalan's
his daughter.
daughter.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
his daughter. Yeah.
that's a big part
Yeah.
of it.
His other daughter, by the way, has a movie out that came out this year, right?
That's
Like,
right. Yep.
yeah, you can kind of like look at that two different ways. I think you can either be jaded and cynical and be like, "Ugh, he thinks he's so awesome. Kind of like the Will Smith, Jaden Smith thing, right? I'm
Uh-huh.
famous and stuff, so why not my kid? Or you could kind of like look at it as affable and
Yeah.
nice of him to put his kids in the movie, help his kid make a movie, help his kid with whatever their endeavor is, being a good parent. I think my feelings depend on how I'm feeling on a given day. Um, but his daughter is good in the movie. She's
She
pretty
is.
good. The central Josh Hartnett performance is also very, very important. His performance are like maybe not on the same level of quality, but they're akin to like Christian Bale in American Psycho.
Yeah, he
You know?
has that just ability to kind of like turn on and off, which is great.
Yeah.
The psychopath smile, and I don't know. I think as far as M. Night Shyamalan goes and his kids, I think you're right.
Uh-huh.
It definitely depends on the day, but in this instance, it does legitimately feel like M. Night Shyamalan is just trying to be a good dad and wants to do what's best
Yeah,
for
I
his
can't really.
kids. I can't really fault him for that. I mean, we should take them as their own, right?
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
like this movie that was directed by his daughter wasn't very good.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, I heard it was just not great.
But I think you should take it for
Whatever.
its own, right? You shouldn't take it, oh, it's M.
Right.
Night Shyamalan's daughter. I think it's great
Right.
that M. Night Shyamalan's giving them the opportunity, but as a viewer, as a critic, as whatever, we should view it on its own light. We shouldn't try to compare it because that's not fair to anyone involved. It's not fair to M. Night
I agree.
Shyamalan or his
Yeah.
kids to say, "Oh, well, it's not like The Sixth Sense." It's their own thing. They're their own people, and we need to see them that way. But it's also good that he's out there trying to do the best for his kids, for better or for worse.
His daughter in the movie.
And as far as
Filming
Trap
a concert movie for his daughter.
goes, it's basically what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's just a concert movie with a psychopath in the middle of it. And everything at the stadium, I love it. I
It's great.
love
Yeah, honestly, yeah,
every
when they
second of
leave
that.
the stadium, I think the movie falters just a little bit. All the stuff at the stadium is hilarious and crazy. And this movie's a blast to watch because like Shyamalan, he's mounting and mounting and mounting the absurd situation. I just love when the movie starts and he's there waiting in line and he sees the cops guarding the door. Nothing that unusual. But
Mhm.
then he starts to notice other weird things. And then it culminates in that little moment where he talks to the t-shirt guy who
Yeah.
says basically what's going on. He basically sums up to him exactly like what the situation is.
It's
And it
way
just
too
go keeps
specific.
he's very specific and it keeps mounting and mounting and mounting. That in itself is very fun to watch. It's very funny. And it's like the best part of the movie, really.
Oh yeah. I mean, just trying to watch him figure out how we get to the
Yeah,
situation.
it's so
Because the other
good.
thing too is his kid's still there. So he's trying to figure
Right,
out
yeah,
how do
yeah.
I
And
do
he
this?
actually likes his kid. Like
And
it's
he
not
loves
like
his kid.
he wants his kid to like have fun and be
Yeah.
happy and stuff, but at the same time, he's a horrible serial killer. Like
I love it. And yeah, like you were saying, once you leave, it goes on for way too long. That's the
on,
Shyamalan problem.
trademark right there.
So either have him get caught right when he leaves or have him get away right when he leaves. Like
I just
just
don't
you don't need all
I,
the other stuff. It doesn't add anything.
shortening it, I just don't think would do anything. I just think like his movies have like this particular pacing to it that is unavoidable, whether you shorten the movie or not. And that's just how it is. But the Instagram live scene is just so fucking funny. That's like one of the funniest scenes ever. Like, does anyone in Philadelphia like?
It's very specific. One of the things I love about Shyamalan is his characters always say extremely specific things. No one would
It's
actually
like
have to
comic book
say
video game
them,
logic. Yeah, right.
but you love it anyways. You don't care.
I understand people caring about that. I've seen some negative reviews about the way that people act or whatever in the movie, but I found it easy to let go in this instance just because I think the crux of the movie is so great, especially given this ubiquity of Taylor Swift and her live shows are so crazy and everyone,
Mhm.
goes nuts about them and they're constantly discussing them. I just think that that is like kind of like the perfect, timely movie crux. And there are things about it that aren't perfect, but to give it even more credit, it's an original idea. It's not a sequel. It's not an adaptation. It's an original movie idea. And Shyamalan, I got to give him credit for doing that. Even if the movie isn't a masterpiece, perfect, or anything like that, but it's operating on quite a few interesting levels and appropriately intelligent for what it is. And, I got to give him credit.
I had a blast, and I'm glad it exists, and I hope it did and does well in theaters
Yeah, I
because
think it's doing
he
well.
deserves it.
Yeah. It's a very polarizing movie. I've seen people say they love it. I've seen people say they hate it.
That's every M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, he's just a very polarizing director, but I think I overall like him. I wouldn't say like he's like a favorite director of mine or anything like that, but
Have
I think I will get around to watching all of his movies. I think there's something interesting going on. It's just too bad they kind of drag.
you seen The Village?
No, I wanted to get around to that one, but there was no Blu-rays of it at the
No,
library and it's not on any streaming services, so
never
I'll get
found it.
around to it eventually.
It's one that I've wanted to watch for a while, but I can never seem to find it anywhere. So I don't know. I might go to the bookstore that I go to. They have a lot of Blu-rays, and they
They
always have like a
probably would
really
have a
interesting
Blu-ray, yeah.
collection.
They
So
probably have a Blu-ray there.
I'm hoping they might
It's
have.
like a famous movie.
Yeah, which is weird why it's so hard to find.
You could easily probably find like a cheap Blu-ray of like The Village there. I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah.
I've heard that one is like signed in terms of a level of its quality, decent Shyamalan film. But again, my favorite was Unbreakable. It's got a great moody look, has a great central Bruce Willis performance. It's kind of basically like a superhero origin story comic book type movie. I don't think it's based on any particular superhero.
It's of that early 2000s era
Yeah.
superhero kind of thing, right? Like Sam Raimi,
Yeah, I would
Spider-Man
agree.
kind of
I
like
would say
world.
so, yeah. Maybe even more grounded and realistic. The Raimi Spider-Man movies are very colorful and very campy. Unbreakable really isn't too campy. It has like this dark tone to it, which is very lovely.
I think M. Night Shyamalan deserves more love than he's given, but
I think we should give him more slack.
I think so.